Hello lamp fans, I got some spare time so I thought I'd shoot another video. So I showed this lamp a year ago. I think I bought it 2 years ago now, come to think of it. So maybe the video is a year and a half old. And I bought this lamp, I didn't pay a whole lot for it. I bought it at an antique mall. And I don't know who makes it. It's not in, in the Kerosene lamps book by Bill Porter. And it's got some features and attributes that kind of make sense, but then don't make sense. But anyway, I thought I'd pursue this again, and I kind of took it apart and played with it, and I think I know how it works, and I think the lamp is complete. So all lamps have to have, a wick, of course, and some way to lift the wick up and down. Like a wick riser, a rack, or something, or a mechanism, a turning wheel. And this one doesn't have any obvious ones other than on the bottom there's this little spinny wheel thing here. So I pulled it apart. Now I think this lamp was apart and has been soldered together. I'm gonna probably take it apart to prove it, but this is how I found it. And it came with a Bradley and Hubbard flame spreader. It fits. But just because it fits doesn't mean it works. Like everything's a little crooked here too right now, just because it's not really bolted together. I could straighten it up, and it's also crooked down here because of this solder. So that's where I think somebody soldered the top to the base. So I'm gonna pull it apart real quick. Hopefully not make a big mess here. I'm gonna do it with one hand. And kind of show you how everything sort of works. So that does slide off. I'm trying to do it with one hand here. It's very difficult. So the reason I think this thing was apart is for 2 or 3 reasons. Is this particular base is a casting base. These cast base were probably more like 1880 to 1900. This one is very kind of rough cast and rudimentary. So I believe this is a 1870s or 1880s center draft, which would make it one of the earlier American center drafts to come out. I can't figure out who makes it other than the flame spreader, but as I said, that flame spreader has a patent date of 1889, but I think this lamp is older. It might fit, it might be a Bradley and Hubbard prototype, it might be American or a Canadian manufacturer or assembled, who knows. So this is a rough older piece, but the reason I think it was taken apart is because look at the polish level. So between the top piece that sits on that, you see it's really highly polished. I would have my doubts that even if that was made 130 or 40 years ago, that if you put those two together, that piece wouldn't be oxidized as well to a certain degree. Maybe not as much as the outside, but yes. The last video I showed this piece here, which is some sort of a burner, and this is how I found it on the lamp. And people were pointing out that looks like the solders look very rudimentary. And yeah, but that's the way lamps were built, believe it or not. Like here's the inside of this. Look at the solder in there. And basically this is a piece of stamped, a piece of flat brass that was rolled and then seamed together. There's the seam. But that's how they built them. So they're, if you don't see it, it doesn't have to be pretty, right? And same for this here. So as I said, this was on the lamp. Now getting back to the base, or the font I should say. So I took a really close look at this. I didn't take this rod out. There's no way to get the rod out unless I held the nut and pushed the whole thing through. But this thing does spin. So people are thinking, it was a way to cut off air. But you know what it is? I believe that's the wick raising mechanism in there, because when you turn that, the actual center draft tube turns. I'm going to do it right there. It goes. And as you notice, I'm going to see if I can focus in on this. There's a whole bunch of holes in that. Why would there be holes in a center draft tube? It doesn't need it. But if this is the center draft tube, it probably doubles as the wick raising mechanism. So the wick is in there, it's down in there. You can't quite, there you go. You can see it a little bit. It looks like a number 2L wick. I can sort of get it into there, but you wouldn't feed it in that way. it would have to come in through the bottom. So I believe that there is a gear wheel or a pinion or something that corresponds to those holes, and as you turn it up or down, it's going to ride that wheel, it's going to move the wick. But the only way for me to get this apart is to take this apart. I think I'm going to do that. I'm just going to desolder this because it's actually crooked. But if I desolder that, I can easily solder it up and polish it. It'll look like I never played with it. And then I can see if I can get the wick to move up and down. The other issue I had too was the way that this came. I'm sorry, this is fairly difficult. This came like this, and I'm going, well, the solders look ugly. How do you fit a chimney to that? And I just sat back and I thought to myself, well, maybe this part is installed upside down. So I turn it the other way. Sorry, it might be a little hard to focus in on this. It actually fits on. You see where the flame spreader goes, and those little fingers there are what holds the chimney. So I'm going to take this off one more time. As you notice that all other lamps ever pretty much built, they run the fingers, or whatever you want to call these things. There's all sorts of different names for them. But essentially, the chimney would fit inside that. So I went back and go, well, what if it was sat that way? And what if I got a 3-inch chimney? And there you go, Bob's your uncle. Sits down nice and flat. It has holes at the bottom to allow air up, to cool the, and to help for it to burn. Plus it's got the center draft tube that's going to be supplying air here. So there you go. So I think this is complete. So that's really it. So I think, let me know what you think. Should I take it apart and see if I can get the wick to work or not, or just leave it alone? But if anybody has an idea who made this, as I said, I went through everybody in here, and there's really nothing like it. There's that flame spreader, 1889. Kind of lucked into that page. There's a ton of other companies out there, but it's this kind of beefiness here kind of makes me think it's an 1880s lamp as such, maybe 1870s. It would be a very early center draft American lamp. But anyway, hope you enjoyed this week's video, and have yourselves a nice day.